In this video, we're going to show you exactly how to read coverages in football. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what the coach and the quarterback is thinking and where the ball should be thrown based on the coverage. So before we actually deep dive into the coverages, we're going to look at two things, mainly the safeties and the corners, because they're going to tell us everything that we need to know, more so the safeties than the corners. First things first, where is the safeties alignment? Typically, the rule of thumb is the safeties need to get within their coverage area within 5 yards. Meaning, if this safety is going to rotate to the center of the field, you'll see him within 5 yards of the center of the field before he actually gets there. And the corners we tell to look at, because if you're looking at youth or high school, you'll rarely see corners disguise coverages. But when you get to college and the NFL, press coverage doesn't always mean man because he can open his hips and run and bail out and then could turn something that looks like cover two into cover four or something that looks like press coverage into zone coverage. So again, the corners can lie to you. They are a tell sometimes, mainly at the younger levels, but at the NFL and college level, we're really going to key in on these safeties. So that's the first two things that we want to talk about. The third thing we're identifying coverages, of course, is just to understand the last number in the coverage is going to be how many deep defenders that the defense has. So cover zero, there's zero deep defenders. And of course, cover four, meaning four deep defenders. Now, we do have cover five as well, which is we're calling cover five, but also be known as two man. It kind of breaks the principle and the rule of having that last number. We just want to make that note. But when we talk about all the coverages, again, really focus on that last number. The first one we're going to start off with is cover zero. And you look at that last number, zero. What does that mean? Zero deep defenders. So when you see cover zero, typically it means that the defense is going to bring six players on a blitz. So again, with zero deep defenders, so we're bringing six, meaning the offense needs to block six. If not, there's going to be a free player that's going to have a free shot at the quarterback. But let's say we do go 6 for 6. We end up bringing this Mike off the edge. We end up bringing this Jack off the edge. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this Sam here is going to cover the running back. Remember, there's 5 eligible receivers on offense, meaning that the defense is going to play man for man. There's no help deep. And the ball has to come out relatively quick. Quarterback typically sees cover zero. They have what's called a hot read built into their offensive scheme, meaning the hot read is typically going to be a quicker throw that the quarterback has to get the ball out to, because if not, he's going to get hit in the chin right away. Within 1.5 to 2 seconds, the ball probably needs to come out when they're seeing cover zero. That's usually a general rule of thumb, is that when I see 6 players and I see no safeties deep, they're all within 7 yards. It usually means that some sort of cover zero is coming. And of course, tagged along with cover zero is a 6-man pressure that the defense is bringing. Again, you see these guys moved up. You see them even here, and you don't see anybody in the middle of the field. We got to get rid of the ball soon, and we got to find our best matchup. It doesn't necessarily need to be a slant or a quick throw. Is this our best matchup here? Okay, we got to catch and throw the football to our best matchup. Okay, so that's what coaches are looking for when they see cover zero. A, how can I get the ball out hot? And B, how can I get the ball to my best player as soon as possible? Next, we're going to talk about cover one. Now, cover one means one deep defender. So I have a post field safety in the middle of the field. So that means we're pretty much closed off in the middle of the field, because if the Y wants to run a post, he's going to run right to the free safety. If the X wants to run a post, he's going to run right to the free safety. So the defense is closing off that middle of the field. So where do we take advantage of if we're the offense? Typically the hashes into the outside. But again, looking at the safety, single high, corners pressed up. So we can probably rule that it is cover one. Now, when it's cover one, notice the defense is playing with outside leverage. Again, here, outside leverage. Corners are going to be playing with outside leverage and outside leverage. Now, you may ask, why are they playing with outside leverage? Where's your help? Your help is center field. So I want to force the receiver to play inside to give my free safety a fighting chance to be able to get to the middle of the field. Now, when you're playing with outside leverage, of course, you're vulnerable to the inside. So if a team does give you this with an out and then here with a slant, that ball needs to be hit in this window because the corner is out leveraged. Again, you're looking at where are they trying to funnel all the receivers to, and then we could take advantage of the leverage point. And a lot of times you'll see cover one beaters will be if this Y receiver on the strong safety is a matchup. Again, we want to try to take advantage of any matchups that we have. So a lot of times you'll see coaches run mesh. Well, they'll go just like this across the formation. Again, they're playing outside leverage, meaning he has to run all the way across the field. That's a good cover one beater. You also see a lot of teams run what we call smash fade. We're going to run a hitch, and then he's going to work to the outside again, away from the safety to try to throw the ball away from the strong safety and the free safety on the back end. So those are two beaters from a cover one perspective. But again, the old cliche is you get cover one, you make them run. I want to use deep crosses. I want to try to do anything I can to make these outside linebackers and corners have to run all the way across the field. It's very hard to do to run all 53 and a thirds across the field to try to cover a fast receiver. So cover one, make them run. Now, the next coverage we're going to look at is cover two. Again, we're looking at the safeties. We're seeing what? We're seeing a too high safety look. Perfect. Now we're going to look at corner intentions. Are the corners playing with the intentions of the wide receiver, or is their body tilted a little bit? And oftentimes you'll see corners in cover two will be slightly shaded to the outside, and they're not going to allow this wide receiver to outside release. Again, think of the weakness. There's two weaknesses in the cover two. What are they? They're this area right here, what's often called the hole shot. They're going to try to take a shot into the hole right here on each side. And then, of course, if they can split the middle of the field, because these two deep safeties are going to be hashes and dropping back. So they're going to kick, get to their hash landmark, and then try to fade out to the outside. But oftentimes, this middle of the field is wide open. And a lot of teams, what they'll do is they'll try to get these players to the middle of the field, or they'll try to occupy this corner and then try to run some sort of hole shot to the outside. So you may get this here to the outside to try to occupy that corner, and then teams will try to take advantage of that whole shot right there if they're not trying to infiltrate the middle of the field. And this is where the version of Tampa 2 comes from. And we're going to talk about Tampa a little bit later when we talk about simulated pressures in this video. But teams that started to hurt the middle of the field here, what defenses started to do is they started to take their Mike linebacker and run him through the middle of the field. And then that way, if this was trying to happen, they could use their Mike linebacker to take advantage of that middle throw, which then allowed the safeties to do this and get wider to protect themselves on the hole shot here. So this is the version of cover two you'll often hear be called Tampa 2. And again, how do you read if it's Tampa? Is how this Mike's reacting. If he's just spot dropping where he is, cover two. If he's getting on his horse and running as fast as he can through the middle of the field and then squaring his hips up, that's Tampa 2. So that's how you differentiate between the two, between Tampa and cover two. But those are the weaknesses, and that's how you read the coverage when you get too high, how you want to take advantage of the defense. All right, next we're going to look at cover three, and you guessed it, three deep defenders. So we're going to use our corner as a deep third, our other corner as a deep third, and then safety as a deep third as well. And then the strong safety is going to take the flats, Jack's going to take the flats. Sam and Mike are what we call hook curl droppers. They're just going to drop onto the hash and square themselves up. So you notice it's pretty balanced coverage, three deep and then four underneath. So that's what we call spot drop in cover three. Everybody's just getting to an area. Now what teams are running is a version of what we call match cover three. And we did a whole video on match cover three, so I won't go into too much detail here, but it looks like cover one. The corners can be pressed up and they can bail out of this. That way they're still playing their cover three, or you'll have them deep off. And this is where it gets tricky between reading the safety and the corner to see exactly what it is. The jack will be outside leveraged again. Same with the strong safety. They're playing cover three. Now, you may think, well, what's the difference between cover one and cover three? Match is going to be this strong safety and this jack are only taking this Y if he goes out or if he goes vertical. If he goes under now, he's going to let him go and just zone off. And you may be thinking, why would teams do that? And the reason is, if you're getting it under now, think of any offense ever. They don't want to throw this, right? What is this right here? This route right here is just to get these linebackers to come up. That way they can throw what? The dig behind their head. So whenever you see an under now, just like this, you're probably getting either a dig or you're getting some sort of mesh this way. So what defenses got smart, and mainly Bill Belichick and Coach Nick Saban, what they did was they said, hey, why are we chasing this in match cover three? Let's just let this go, and then we can zone off and then look for this to happen underneath it. And then same thing, the jack would stay exactly where he is, and now they're just going to filter it to each other as the Sam and Mike drop back. So it was a way for them to say, hey, we're not going to chase anything underneath. We can just take what they're giving us if they're going to go under now. Again, that's what the difference is between just spot dropping cover three and then matching. And again, the corner is going to take their deep third, and then underneath, they're going to match those routes to make sure that if we do get vertical, we're going to get on his hip and push him to, again, our help, which is the free safety. If he runs out, that's easy. He's playing with leverage. He can just drive on it. Now, how do you take advantage of match cover three? You're going to have to switch routes here. Okay? So remember, this corner is dropping here. So if you do get a switch route here, you then can sit down because you're forcing this corner to play with leverage to not be able to carry any inside route. Because again, this jack's got to run with everything vertical. So he's got to run with that, which allows the snag combination or any sit down route to happen. Okay? So you can take advantage of that. You can flood a zone as well, where you can bring him out. Again, bring him here and then bring him deep out through as well. Again, this is just different ways. This is where one play that actually hurts as well. And this is where offensive coordinators have gotten very creative. Where if you see this, what do you think? Strong safety is going to let him go because the match rule said to let him go. Well, then what we can do now is carry him vertical up and through. Again, we can clear out the jack here and go through here. And then again, here's your soft spot that you're forcing the free safety to cover. So there's just different ways with this is Y cross, what's commonly called, but there's different ways that teams are taking advantage of match coverage is by using the rules against them and finding ways to get receivers open. All right, the next coverage we're going to teach you to read is cover four. So again, we're going to look at the safeties. We're going to see too high, perfect. Now we look at the corners and then about 7 yards off. So we know that this is going to be cover four because every one of these players is going to be playing a deep quarter. Again, cover four. Another way I like to think of it is think of it like an umbrella coverage where we're trying to cap everything that goes deep. So if you're trying to throw deep or four verts, you're probably not going to be able to do it because everything is going to be capped, meaning we're capping this. You can't get vertical on it because we have a player over the top of it, all right? So this is what cover four is. Again, very easy to read. A lot of teams will play this coverage when it's 3rd and 10 or the first down marker, let's say, is right here on the 30-yard line. And we know that they have to get to the 30-yard line. A lot of teams, what they'll do is they'll take their corners, put them exactly at 10 yards, and you'll see this cover four coverage. Well, they'll hold their ground. They know you're going to the sticks. You have to. They'll let their players get after it, and they'll tackle anything that's underneath. So that's, again, a watered down version of cover four that you see is this umbrella coverage. Now, you have the deep four, and then you have your three players that are playing the flats underneath, and then he's going to play the middle of the field. So if you look at it, it's the umbrella coverage with you're very weak underneath. So a lot of teams that, again, will run this will be for those 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15 situations where you're just trying to cap any deep balls, and then you hope you can get to the quarterback. Again, that's cover four. When we zone drop it. Now, there's another variation. Again, we'll link a video above. You can go check it out, which is match cover four, which we just talked about the match principles in cover three. It's the same concept. We're not necessarily playing zones anymore. We're playing receivers because receivers catch the football, not blades of grass. So the rules are pretty simple. I'll teach it to you within 30 seconds here. The Sam linebacker here is going to play this Y. If anything out, it's going to be his. So now we're matching anything out. Okay. If he goes under, what do we say in the other cover three? We're going to let it go. If he goes vertical, it's the safeties. It's his. Let it go. And it's the same thing for the jack on the other side. They're going to be playing this principle of I got him out, you got him vertical. If he goes in, let him go. And again, the corners are going to be matching up on number one. So many times you will see a match coverage where he may play press match quarters, meaning he's going to beat up that X receiver. And if he goes deep at all, it's his. They're playing man to man. This is also called mod coverage, man only deep. And then same thing with this corner here. You can play from off or pressed. If he goes deep, he's mine. If he goes underneath, like we talked about before, let him go. He's someone else's problem. And if he hitches up, we're just going to wait for this jack to get out here on a drop call and just let him handle that as well. So really the corner is playing nothing that goes deep is going to be anyone else's but his. So he's just going to zone off of that. But again, this is popular for safeties that like to get into the run fit. You can position these guys at 10 yards. They're reading number two because the only thing they really have to worry about is that right there. And that would be there. Again, this is match quarters where we're matching receivers. We're not just zoning off and dropping off into no man's land. We're allowing our safeties to get into the run fit. And with the minute they see run, they can trigger downhill now. And now you're trying to fit the run with an additional 2 players, which makes it 9 players fit in the run. So this is match cover 4. And now what beats match quarters, okay, or match cover 4 is essentially anytime you can put the safety in a bind with any post corner because he needs to decide, am I going to stay with the corner or am I going to run with the post? And oftentimes it will get them mixed up. Next, again, we talked about splitting the middle of the field here. It's the weakness in cover 4. You can't allow those players to run through the middle of the field. And the last one, probably the most popular, is how can you manipulate this safety? And we talked about this in our passing concept video. If you want to check that out too, about how teams will manipulate cover 4, is they'll run this player right at the free safety and then run him in. and then run this player here on a post. So again, you're putting stress on this free safety. Am I going to drive that dig or am I going to play deep on the post? And 90% of the time, the defense is going to be right every single time. So it really forces this Mike to get into this hole to try to get in the window of that dig throw. Next, we're going to talk about cover five, also known as two man. If you play Madden or any of those other games, it's going to be called two man. I reference it as cover five. And cover five because you have one, two, three, four, and five defenders underneath that are covering. Again, you can reference it as two man. It's all the same thing. And everyone's just playing man coverage. Mike's going to take the running back, Jack's here, and corners here. So you see, it's a pretty hard coverage to throw against. You have to win. So we go back to our cover one, cover zero rules. Step one, you got to win against whoever's covering you. Step two, we got to find the hole in the defense. So oftentimes in two man, coaches are going to tell these strong safety and this free safety, you're getting depth over in between one and two here. Again, if they're going to try to throw a deep shot to their X receiver who's pretty good, we want to make sure that we cap it on top. So meaning the offensive coordinator has to scheme up this H and the Z to get open somehow. That way we can A, beat our man, and then B, find space. That way the quarterback can fit it in a tight window. Okay. So it's very hard to do, but oftentimes the middle of the field is where you want to win. So at the line of scrimmage, and I know we're getting cluttered here with all these lines. So let me erase it. Typically what teams will do if they know they're getting cover five is how can I do a rub route? Can I pick this corner and then get my Z going to the open area of the field? And I can clear this Mike out by swinging. So the Mike has to take them. And then we start to open up areas of the field. So step one, got to win at the line of scrimmage. Step two, can we get our receivers open by design? And then step three, can we get them into the open space that the defense is naturally giving us? So those are the five main coverages, but I wanted to cover some nuances within the coverage that a lot of teams will play because it's not just going to be cover two, cover four. Like there's going to be checks within that structure of the system that allows teams to play different stack sets, different bunch combinations. That way they're always not getting picked off. What we mean by that is, let's say we're playing cover one. So we're getting man coverage on the Z receiver and man coverage on this H receiver. What a lot of teams will do is they'll soft motion this player in, right? And then they'll have him run all the way across the field. And then they'll have this H just get in the way and pick this player and get through. Well, how do you defend against it? So what a lot of teams will do is they'll do what's called banjoing, meaning that once this player gets to a stack set, these two will communicate with each other. Hey, I'm going to take the first receiver out. You're going to take the first receiver in. Because think about it, they're both not going to run down the field like this. Eventually, one has to break in, one has to break out. One's going to break deep, one's going to break short. So they're going to communicate with each other. Hey, we're going to banjo this, meaning if he wants to go in motion this way and then go here, the jack already has leverage. Let's run with it and take it. And then the corner is going to hop on the back of this. So a lot of times you'll see that in stack sets, if they're in sets like this, where a bunch set, all right, you'll see the corner will press here. The jack will then take first outside, and then the strong safety will take the first to the inside. So we're going to beat the point up here. So that's X'd out. And then the strong safety and the jack can say, hey, if we get this, we're not going to run into each other and try to cover our guys. I'll just take the first in, you take the first out. And then that way they can sort everything out and go from there. So there's different ways, again, that the teams will play these stack sets. You may also see players press here. So, hey, I'm going to take the point no matter what. You take the Z receiver no matter what. There's also sets too where the corner will be outside leverage to say, hey, I'm going to take the Z no matter what. You take the H no matter what. So there's different ways that teams will play stack sets, and that's just how they'll do it. They either banjo it, they'll say, I got back, you got the front guy, or vice versa. So we just want to cover that with the stack sets. And there's different variations of coverage you can do off of this, but mainly if you understand the in and out principle, you can relay it to any man coverage system. The last thing we wanted to cover, which breaks all of the rules that we just talked about, but if you watch any Minnesota Viking games or any Brian Flores coached defenses, you're going to see what's called a simulated pressure. And these are not relatively new, but they're newer in a sense that a lot more teams are getting comfortable putting 7, sometimes 8 guys at the last scrimmage and then getting into their base coverages. And what we mean by this is, let's just walk everybody up here. So simulated pressure, we're going to simulate that we are bringing 6 players, meaning the offensive line has to account for all 6. Now defense coordinators can play games with the offense. So you may see this coverage here. What are you thinking? It is cover 0, right? And I agree with you. But what Coach Flores has done is he's made something look like this and has gone into a Tampa 2 defense by bailing everybody out on the snap and then getting to their spot. So meaning if we wanted to give this look here and we wanted to get into a Tampa 2 defense, what would we do? The free safety would have to run cross the field to his zone. He'd have to run to his zone. The Mike would have to get through the middle of the field. Sam's going to be a hook dropper. And then the jack is going to be the other hook dropper. And then the corner is going to sit on the flat. And the other corner is going to sit on the flat. So you notice we just created Tampa 2 from a simulated pressure look because the offense doesn't know what we're in. They see 7 guys in the last scrimmage, right? They don't know. I mean, by the looks of it, you're thinking, hey, there's no deep safeties here. So, of course, it's cover zero. Well, that's how they're going to get you. And at the NFL level, you have to do this stuff because if you just sit in a cover two, Patrick Mahomes or these quarterbacks that are great will rip you to shreds. So they have to give you presentations that look like they're blitzing and then bail off because the speed of NFL is so great. If you try to set youth, very hard to do because the speed of this free safety showing blitz and then getting 20 yards into my deep half to play cover two probably isn't going to happen, right? Because this H will probably be a lot faster and be able to buzz right by them. So in the NFL, they can do this just because the speed is so great. But I wanted to at least show you this to you because the next time you see this, it's called a simulated pressure and it's just a shell. It's just saying, hey, we're blitzing or are we? You got to take your guess because if we do blitz and you don't account for it and you swing this running back out and he peels off to it, you're probably going to get crushed because you don't have enough people to block. So again, this confuses offense. You don't necessarily know what it is. Now, if they gave you this, 6 guys at the last scrimmage with single high, you probably are thinking, what? This is cover three, this is cover zero. So now we can start to look at safeties and corners again to see what it is. But the minute you take that free safety out of the field and do this with them, again, Coach Flores has done a great job with this. It's disguised, like you don't know what it is. It looks like cover zero. It may or may not be. So that's our introduction to simulated pressures. Again, you will see them. The Vikings run them a ton, and there are some other NFL teams that are dabbling in these types of covered shells, as we call them. It's a shell to actually get into what we want to get into. So that's how you read coverages in football. Again, if you want to learn more about coverages, about pass plays, run concepts, blitzes, everything under the sun, be sure to check out our Ultimate Football Guide in the description below. It has everything that you need. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out this video next, and we'll see you next time.